Happy New Year. This is Shamil, the CEO of Search for Common Ground. Just sending this note out to our supporters and friends on the occasion of the passing of Jimmy Carter, 39th President of the United States. As a colleague of mine and I are working to arrange our attendance at President Carter's funeral service tomorrow, I just wanted to share a couple of reflections. Carter is one of 4 U.S. presidents to have won the Nobel Peace Prize. He's the only one to have won it after he left office, more than 2 decades after he left office, in fact, which was out of recognition of everything that he did even after leaving office to contribute to global peace and security and human rights and respect for international law. But he could have won it, arguably, just for what he did while he was in office. He picked up on the momentum that had been started by President Nixon in normalizing relationships with China. He signed the SALT II peace accords with the then Soviet Union to limit the nuclear try to limit the advance of the nuclear arms race between the two countries. He presided over the Panama Canal treaties, which were really quite controversial in the U.S. at the time, but really were an effort to reset how the U.S. engaged with Latin America more broadly, and were widely appreciated and respected by all Latin American leaders at the time, and demonstrated a respect for international law and treaties. Famously, of course, he presided over the first peace accord between Israel and an Arab state with the Camp David Accords between Israel and Egypt, which have held now for more than 50 years. And in all of those efforts, Carter, and after leaving office, Carter exemplified these two sides of peace building that are really very difficult to combine in one person or even one organization, which is, on the one hand, this ability to genuinely make people feel heard and respected and validated in their insecurities or their concerns or the reasons why they're not pursuing peace or they're actively pursuing war. Make people genuinely feel that he appreciated them, respected them, and wanted the best for them and their people. And at the same time, was uncompromising and very outspoken and principled in defending what are supposed to be universal standards of human rights and human dignity. And this, particularly in his both private but especially public statements, would get him in a lot of hot water. It's why the presidents that came after him, both Democratic and Republican alike, it's been well documented, had sort of challenging relationships with Carter. He would say things publicly like the U.S. cannot be both the world's leading champion of peace and the world's leading supplier of the weapons of war. When he wrote his book, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid, in I think it was 2006 or 2007, he had, I think it was 15 members of his board at the Carter Center resign, feeling that he had become one-sided in his advocacy. That was very well publicized. Less well publicized was less than a decade after that. The former board member who had led that walkout, Steve Berman, publicly wrote about the fact that he reached out to Carter with an apology and regretted what he had done, and felt that much of what Carter had argued at the time was in fact correct. And in all of this, I think, whatever your stances are on the different conflicts in which he deeply engaged himself, I think you would be hard pressed if you take the most volatile and polarizing example, maybe of Israel-Palestine. You would really be hard pressed to find an Israeli or a Palestinian who dealt directly with Carter, who didn't feel like he genuinely respected them, appreciated them, wanted the best for them and for the people they were representing, even when he sometimes held up a very uncomfortable mirror to them, and they completely disagreed with what he might have said or actions that he was taking. And that ability to be both, we sometimes call it the prophetic voice and the pastoral voice. The prophetic voice that speaks with courage and consistency to the same universal principles, speaks truth to power, and yet the pastoral voice that makes people feel welcomed and respected and appreciated and validated in their pain and in their insecurities and in their concerns. He really combined those two sides of extraordinary peace building. And it's people like that who expose, I think, the fallacy that we sometimes tell ourselves, that there's a trade-off between justice and peace, who think of peace as simply the lack of violence and think of justice as simply retribution or punishment. And people like Carter really exemplified that peace is much more than that, and justice is much more than that. And in fact, they are two sides of the same coin. And so for that, I think maybe more than anything else, I really mourn his passing, and very much wish for all of us that we have more leaders like Carter at every level of society, from the community level up to the national and global level. And that's exactly the kind of leadership we try to promote and support here at Search. And so I just want to end this note of recognition and celebration of Carter's legacy with a big thank you to you all for supporting us in that effort. Thank you, and Happy New Year to you.